Details on another backstage incident in All Elite Wrestling involving CM Punk, this time when William Regal made his All Elite Wrestling debut last year at AEW Revolution. Details on that, plus CM Punk, a general update on his status and AEW's reaction to his firing. We've got updates on Warner Bros. Discovery's reaction to this planned meeting with the Elite that was scrapped, Tony Khan's thoughts and processes on it, the investigation into CM Punk, as well as a possible CM Punk response that is expected from those within AEW, that is expected to be, quote, explosive. Details on why that is. Tony Khan, of course, was asked about CM Punk extensively last night in the All Out post-show press conference, and he didn't comment too much on his firing, but did thank him for his contributions. Jon Moxley is the brand new AEW International Champion after defeating Orange Cassidy. Bryan Danielson made his in-ring return, defeating Absolute Ricky Starks in a strap match. MJF and Samoa Joe had to be pulled apart, seemingly planting the seeds for a future program between the two. Speaking of Joe, he is still the Ring of Honor World Television Champion after retaining the title last night at All Out. CJ Perry, formerly known as Lana in WWE, has made her AEW debut alongside her husband Miro. Luchasaurus is still the TNT Champion after defeating Darby Allin. Christian Cage says he has signed a brand new AEW contract. Chris Statlander retains the TBS Championship, and the Acclaimed are still the Trios Champions. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of news stories to get into in the world of All Elite Wrestling. And as you just saw that intro, there is so much to get into. Let's start off talking about yet another incident involving CM Punk. This one took place a while ago, but certainly it's fascinating when you actually read the details involved in all of this. So CM Punk's time, of course, with AEW seems to be, quite frankly, filled with controversy and confrontations, as another incident has been confirmed. This comes from Cassidy Haynes of Bodyslam.net, and this incident took place in his time during the company once again. Of course, it's been a tumultuous week regarding CM Punk. Last weekend at AEW All In, Punk was involved in another backstage altercation. However, this one would be different than those in the past in various ways. Namely, Punk not only fought with Jack Perry, but he also reportedly lunged at AEW President Tony Khan while furiously claiming he quit the company. Of course, these events would later leave Tony Khan what he said no other choice but to fire the former AEW World Champion with cause. Despite Punk's drawing power and status as the company's, quote, real world champion, nevertheless, Tony Khan felt that he had no other choice. Now, as of right now, CM Punk has yet to comment on the matter, but there is yet another story to tell regarding Punk's attitude towards others backstage during his tenure with AEW. CM Punk has an intense history of backstage drama in the promotion, with the AEW All Out Brawl perhaps the most infamous incident in All Elite Wrestling's short history, and more recently, Punk has been reported to have had several issues with several AEW stars backstage. Now, this is a fascinating one regarding William Regal. Yes, William Regal, who was in AEW for a short period of time in 2022, making his debut at the Revolution pay-per-view before making his final appearance at Full Gear not long, again, later on that year, before going back to WWE under the Triple H creative regime. Now, Regal, as I mentioned, made his All Elite Wrestling debut at Revolution 2022 to an incredible ovation, working with the company through to the end of the year and forming the Blackpool Combat Club, one of AEW's strongest stables to this day. On that night, Punk defeated MJF in a dog collar match, starting his charge towards the AEW World Championship in the summer of last year. Regal's arrival in All Elite Wrestling was an incredibly substantial one for the promotion, as his experience and incredible wealth of knowledge was welcomed with open arms by the AEW roster. Well, most of them. According to Cassidy Haynes of Bodyslam.net, multiple sources have confirmed to him details about an incident that took place between CM Punk and William Regal, which occurred when Regal made his AEW debut. In the altercation between the two, according to these sources and according to this report, CM Punk refused to shake Regal's hand and would then get in the legend's face, telling him he did not like him, he did not trust him, and that Regal was, quote, a stooge for Triple H. Towards the end of 2022, Regal would be let out of his contract with AEW early by Tony Khan, and William Regal would return to WWE following this, as Regal cited a desire to work with his son. Of course, Punk made his AEW debut back in 2021 after 7 years away from the industry, and of course was no stranger to controversy throughout his All Elite Wrestling run, as noted previously. With Regal returning to WWE once again to serve in a backstage role, this could potentially play into the chances of a CM Punk return to the company following his AEW termination. So what are your thoughts on yet another backstage incident involving CM Punk and All Elite Wrestling, this time when William Regal made his debut with the promotion, with CM Punk refusing to shake his hand and getting in his face, saying he was a stooge for Triple H? Let me know your thoughts on that in the comments section below. Now, we've got a ton of extra details regarding CM Punk, his departure, Warner Bros. Discovery's reaction to this, and so much more. According to Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select, he has put a really intensive and extensive report out there. CM Punk and AEW, of course, have reached an end as the company terminated his employment contract and wrestler contract. He had two, which again is also significant. Now, regarding House of Wrestling's report, Nick Hausman, about a planned meeting with CM Punk and the Elite in Atlanta that got moved, this will long be the subject of a story between two sides. According to Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select, those close to Punk say the meeting was scheduled to happen, while those close to the Elite are adamant that it was never going to happen. Fightful are saying that they have heard at least that a meeting was pitched, which seems to be something that all sides do agree with. Fightful have also heard that there was a brief interaction between the Young Bucks and Punk in London, but when Fightful, Sean Ross Sapp, asked Punk's camp about that, it was clear he was frustrated that the Elite still were not open to talking to him. Now, they haven't heard about Punk speaking with much of anyone thus far. It's actually the quietest that Fightful say they have heard out of that camp in quite a while. Fightful haven't heard that Ace Steel will be affected. Of course, he's still serving as effectively an off-site consultant and is under a deal until September of 2024. Now, according to Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select, there was a meeting ahead of AEW Collision where talent was addressed on the situation. Not everyone who was in town for AEW or StarCast was actually at the meeting, and Fightful are not told all of the information was actually relayed to people who weren't at the show. Many of the details haven't been made available, but talent were asked to not speak on the situation on social media. Whether or not they will or not remains to be seen. Now, there were investigations during interviews, there was this investigation, wasn't there, into CM Punk's firing, and there were interviews during the investigation all week. The interviews weren't only those who witnessed the situation, but those who had interacted with CM Punk throughout his run, and several unrelated things were broached as well. Now, according to Sean Ross Sapp, CM Punk still does have the usual supporters within the company, though they have not heard of anyone else who knew the decision was coming besides those on the disciplinary committee. Fightful are also saying they have not heard the particulars on the Tony Khan CM Punk element of the story, but had heard independently that Punk, quote, lunged at Khan. The specifics of the interactions between Tony Khan and CM Punk, according to Sapp, have been kept very quiet, but there were multiple exchanges throughout the day that were less than pleasant, Fightful have heard. Now, one source has indicated to Fightful that Warner Bros. Discovery and AEW spoke this week about the direction of AEW Collision and ending the, quote, soft brand split that had existed to keep peace within the company. Warner Bros. Discovery was also informed that AEW were going to terminate Punk. As of Thursday, the Young Bucks were scheduled for the Saturday show, and as of Wednesday, Bryan Danielson was internally slated to face Ricky Starks. Danielson replaced Punk, who was originally planned, though not announced, to actually face Starks in that strap match and main event the pay-per-view last night. Danielson is expected to be an integral name on AEW Collision and was factored into the show heavily from the start, certainly when it comes to creative, so it might be a situation of, whilst that soft brand split is ending, Bryan Danielson might be taking the spot of CM Punk as kind of the face of AEW Collision moving forward. But people are waiting, certainly, for this response from CM Punk. There's no way he's just going to be quiet about all of this, particularly with so many people talking about him. Now, ahead of AEW Collision at the United Center in Chicago, Tony Khan announced that he had decided that CM Punk's time with the company had come to an end. The announcement came in the aftermath, of course, of a backstage altercation between Punk and Jack Perry at All In, after which an internal investigation had been launched. Khan made the announcement that in light of the investigation's findings, as well as an outside investigation and legal counsel, he was cutting short Punk's AEW career just 2 years after he made his fairy tale return, which came 7 years after leaving WWE and wrestling altogether. But fans of the straight-edge superstar may have not seen the last of him, with Sports Illustrated reporting that sources close to both sides have indicated an expectation that CM Punk will respond. And this is the key part in all of this. They noted that such a response has the potential to be, quote, explosive. Of course, Punk has been unafraid to be outspoken in the past, not only during last year's All Out press conference where he took aim at Hangman Adam Page, the AEW EVPs, the Elite, and Colt Cabana, but also throughout the time he was absent following the year's incident at last year's Chicago event. He had grievances with Jon Moxley, Chris Jericho, and Dave Meltzer, and that was still while he was under contract with AEW. So there is an air of anticipation surrounding a potential response following his departure this weekend. Of course, while it feels inevitable that he will respond to the situation, there have been questions over what's next for Punk. He left WWE on similarly sour terms in 2014, so it might not be just as simple as previous departures from Tony Khan's promotion. So what do you think CM Punk will say? What could he say that's explosive? What could he say that could damage AEW? Let me know your thoughts about that too in the comment section below. Now, of course, Tony Khan was going to be asked about CM Punk at last night's All Out post-show press conference, and indeed he was. Tony Khan has appreciated CM Punk's contribution to AEW, but hasn't disclosed any information about the terms of CM Punk's release. On the post-All Out media scrum, Tony Khan was asked if the former AEW World Champion has a non-compete clause as part of the terms of his release. Khan thanked CM Punk for his AEW run, but refused to divulge details about a non-compete clause. He said, quote, "I don't want to discuss the terms of the separation in that sense," said Khan. "I think it's best to say, first of all, I very much want to thank CM Punk, Phil, for everything he did for AEW as a wrestler, but I don't think it was an easy decision for anybody on the discipline committee or for the outside counsel or for me to do something like that. But I do think it was the right move, and as far as what's going to happen in the future, I can't speak to that. I'm not the attorneys who interpret that kind of language." He was also asked, again, several questions about Punk and also Jack Perry. Let's start off talking about Jack Perry, because Tony Khan has confirmed that Jack Perry has still been suspended by AEW and is still suspended indefinitely following his actions at All In. During the post-All Out media scrum, Khan was asked about the status of Perry and if he had been handed any punishment after his backstage altercation with CM Punk. The AEW president revealed that all parties involved in the altercation, i.e. Perry and Punk, have been suspended. Quote, "He's, Perry, been suspended indefinitely. I think we've suspended everybody in that investigation and then took further action after that based on what happened and came out of the investigation. As for Jack, we suspended Jack and, as a participant in an incident backstage, and Jack hasn't been around, but that's all I can say about it. At the time, we did suspend him and he hasn't been at AEW since AEW All In London." So he has confirmed for the first time, actually officially on the record, that Jack Perry has indeed been suspended too. Now, the fallout from CM Punk's departure from AEW continues, and obviously was a shadow that was looming over AEW All Out as well. Now, rumours surrounding the termination of Punk's contracts with AEW continued over the course of the weekend, leading to plenty of questions for Tony Khan. During the post-show media scrum, Khan was quizzed by House of Wrestling's Nick Hausman on the lessons he learned from the Punk experience, but the AEW president and CEO refused to acknowledge the question. Instead, Adam Cole, who was alongside Khan, was left to speak on the backstage morale in the wake of Punk's controversial exit. Quote, "As far as the vibe, the excitement these past few weeks about the events that we've had has not gone unnoticed by anybody," Cole said. "The locker room was stoked, the locker room was ready to go, and they were ready to put on the best show they possibly could. Most importantly, we're just so excited for the future. AEW as a whole made so many incredible strides in such a short time." So Tony Khan kind of ignored that question and dodged it. So of course, if we get any more comments from Tony Khan in the future, we'll let you know. But what are your thoughts on all of Tony Khan's comments about that? Thanking CM Punk for his contribution, not talking about if there's any non-compete clause or anything like that. No real comment on his release, saying that Jack Perry indeed is still suspended, and not commenting about what he has learned from the CM Punk experience. We have a brand new AEW International Champion, as Jon Moxley has ended Orange Cassidy's historic reign as champion. While Orange Cassidy put up a good fight against Jon Moxley, he still lost his AEW International Championship to the Blackpool Combat Club member at Sunday's All Out pay-per-view. The match, which ended the pay-per-view in Chicago, and before the show closed, the crowd cheered for Cassidy. Before losing last night, Cassidy had a historic run as the AEW International Champion, lasting 327 days. Cassidy won the title on the October 12, 2022 edition of Dynamite after defeating Pac. As the champion, Cassidy defended the title over 30 times against the likes of Lance Archer, New Japan star Zack Sabre Jr., Buddy Matthews, Jeff Jarrett, Ray Phoenix, and Jay Lethal, and survived 20 other men in a blackjack battle royale at this year's Double or Nothing pay-per-view. Last night's victory marks Moxley's first run as AEW International Champion. Though he is a former 3-time AEW World Champion, he wasn't the only member of the Blackpool Combat Club that was successful last night as well, which we'll get into in just a second. But what are your thoughts on Moxley being the brand new International Champion? Speaking of the Blackpool Combat Club, we hinted at it there. Bryan Danielson made his in-ring return last night at AEW All Out. There was a brutal strap match between a returning Bryan Danielson and Absolute Ricky Starks. Of course, the original plan was Starks versus CM Punk, but Punk was fired by AEW, and Danielson was his replacement. With Bryan Danielson being busted open relatively quickly into the match, Starks spent plenty of time taunting the bleeding Danielson in the ring. In the final moments of the match, Big Bill attacked Bryan Danielson, which triggered Ricky the Dragon Steamboat to hop up from the commentary desk. With Steamboat pulling down Big Bill from the ring apron, the pair got into short fisticuffs before Danielson took flight, taking out both Starks and Big Bill with a leap from the top rope and saving Steamboat. However, as the pair battled back into the ring, Ricky Starks attacked with a big spear, but still to no avail as Danielson kicked out. Finally, it was Bryan Danielson choking out Ricky Starks in a spectacular moment of sports entertainment, whereby Starks refused to give up, screaming no into the camera before eventually passing out as the match was called in Danielson's favor. What did you think of this match, and was it a star-making moment for Ricky Starks? Now, we may have an indication as to who could be MJF's next opponent for the AEW World Championship, because Samoa Joe and MJF had a confrontation at AEW All Out. MJF and Adam Cole had won their Ring of Honor World Tag Team title match in the opener on Sunday. As the pair were making their way to the back, Samoa Joe's music hit as he came down to the ring for his match against Shane Taylor. Joe shoved MJF as he made his way to the ring. Not happy about the encounter, MJF ran back to the ring and attacked Joe as security ran in to separate the two. On X, MJF made reference to a similar situation playing a security guard where he was shoved by Samoa Joe in a backstage NXT segment from years ago. Quote, "I'm not the kid you shoved in Brooklyn, mother effer," he wrote. Game on. Of course, at AEW All Out, MJF and Adam Cole retained the titles, defeating the Dark Order. The finish had MJF, who was taken out of the match early after being attacked by a chair, come in and make a hot tag, scoring the victory for his team. Speaking of Samoa Joe, he is still the Ring of Honor World Television Champion, winning and retaining his title last night at All Out. Samoa Joe is still the Ring of Honor World Television Champion after successfully retaining the title against Shane Taylor at the All Out pay-per-view. Joe won the match by submission. Before his match against Taylor, as I mentioned, he had that interaction with MJF, but eventually he won his match fairly comfortably. Joe has been the Ring of Honor World Television Champion for over 500 days. He won the title way back in April 13, 2022 on the episode of Dynamite when he defeated New Japan star Minoru Suzuki. Taylor, who is a former Ring of Honor Television Champion, had to earn his way into last night's match by winning the Ring of Honor World Television title Eliminator Tournament Finals, but Joe still continues his historic reign as champion. Now, last night we saw a debut at AEW All Out as former WWE star Lana CJ Perry made her debut. The match between Miro and Powerhouse Hobbs at All Out had a surprising aftermath and then an even more surprising second aftermath. Following Miro's victory in the match that saw Chicago crowd come up with a plethora of chants involving the word meat, it seemed as though he and Hobbs would leave it in the ring with mutual respect for one another. However, Hobbs instead chose to attack Miro while his back was turned, a decision that heralded the AEW debut of former WWE star CJ Perry, who arrived to defend her husband and hit Hobbs with a steel chair. Hobbs wasn't exactly fazed by the strike, but the distraction allowed Miro to hit a couple of chair shots of his own, leaving the couple together in the ring. Miro, though, turned out to be less than thrilled to see his hot, flexible wife he's claimed to have forsaken on his path to righteousness. He retreated back up the ramp alone, leaving a confused Perry standing in the ring. Miro could be heard on the entry stage yelling, "You're not real." So, again, certainly very curious as to the ending of that one. Perry worked in WWE as Lana from 2013 to 2021, almost always at the side of Miro, then known as Rusev. She hasn't wrestled in more than 2 years, with her last match coming as part of a tag team contest on Raw in May of 2021. What did you think of her debut, and what do you think of the plans between the two moving forward in AEW? Luchasaurus, Christian Cage, depending on who you believe, is still the TNT champion. It appears that Darby Allin is going to have to wait some time to become a 3-time AEW TNT champion. Luchasaurus retained the title against Darby during the All Out pay-per-view in Chicago last night. For most of the match, Luchasaurus was in control, and of course, Christian Cage was there to give his pep talks. Darby had Nick Wayne in his corner. For some time now, Cage has been feuding with Darby, and last night he wanted to see Darby get annihilated. At the end, Cage was going to hit Darby Allin with a steel chair, but surprisingly, it was Shawn Spears who came out to save him. However, it's worth noting that Spears also tried to win the title back in July at Battle of the Belts 7. Ever since Luchasaurus won the TNT title in June, it has been Cage who has been the one acting as champion. So he actually successfully retained his title, even though Christian Cage still, as you can see in the picture, holds onto it. But speaking of Christian Cage, it looks like he's going to be sticking around in AEW for quite some time, because Christian Cage has announced that AEW has re-signed him to a, quote, big fat contract. Tony Khan thanked Christian Cage for the work that he's doing in AEW during the all-out post-show media scrum, and stated that the former WWE star is probably doing some of the best wrestling of his career with AEW. Christian then turned his attention to the media and said that some of them had doubted his ability, and went on to reveal he has signed a new deal with All Elite Wrestling. Quote, weren't there people, it might have even been some of you people, that said I wasn't worth the hype? I think I proved you all wrong, didn't I? Asked Cage. I know I proved Tony Khan right, because he signed me to a big fat contract. He opened the vault for me, and I deserve every penny that I got. Christian joined AEW in 2021, a month after returning to the ring at the 2021 Royal Rumble show. He then stated that he had signed a long-term contract with AEW and that he's in it for the long haul. Although some people suggest that he was just stating that, again, he had just that this was his original contract and this isn't a new deal or anything like that. What are your thoughts? Do you think he signed a new contract, or indeed was he just referring to his original one that he signed? Chris Statlander is still the AEW TBS champion. There seems to be a theme. There was a theme going on last night at the All Out pay-per-view with most people retaining their titles. Chris Statlander was also the same. The TBS champion retained her title against Ruby Soho. AEW Women's Champion Saraya was keen on her Outcast cohort winning the title so they could both be champions, but it wasn't in the cards. During the match, Saraya was trying to distract the referee so Soho could cheat with a can of spray paint, but Toni Storm came out to stop her. Statlander then hit the Sunday Night Fever for the pinfall. Statlander has been the AEW TBS champion since winning the title from the inaugural champion Jade Cargill in May at Double or Nothing. Cargill had the title for a total of 508 days, and maybe Statlander's looking to try and replicate that. Finally, the Acclaimed are still the AEW World Trios champions after retaining their titles last night. Just a week after defeating the House of Black at All In at Wembley Stadium for the Trios titles, Anthony Bowens, Max Caster, and Billy Gunn have successfully retained their belts. The Acclaimed defeated Jeff Jarrett, Jay Lethal, and Satnam Singh during the 0-hour part of AEW All Out. Former NBA star Dennis Rodman was not only in the corner of the Acclaimed, but he also helped them too. While referee Aubrey Edwards was distracted by Jarrett's wife Karen, Rodman hit Singh with Jarrett's guitar. The title match was only made official during this past Saturday's episode of Collision, while Tony Schiavone was in the ring interviewing Rodman. Jarrett and his cronies were trying to get Rodman to join their family, and the Acclaimed interrupted them. So the Acclaimed are still the AEW World Trios champions. But there you go, guys. That's the latest All Elite Wrestling news for you. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.